Almost everyone that uses Copilot Studio strictly uses the visual canvas to build their agents. And for most things, it's absolutely fine. But there's a point, and you'll know where you hit it, where you just need a little bit more. There's no version control, there's no bulk editing, and when you're trying to collaborate with other team members, it can be very difficult to do so. So there's a VS Code extension for Copilot Studio, and I think it changes things quite a bit for the way that we will develop agents in the future and even today. It hit general availability last month, almost no one's talking about it, so let me show you how it works. My name is Haldon Rashid, Microsoft MVP, MCT, and founder at Powercademy, where we help businesses in the Microsoft ecosystem upskill and empower their teams in Microsoft AI and Power Platform. Right, so what are we doing today? So I'm going to walk you through the Copilot Studio VS Code extension end to end, explain what it does, how it helps, and why it matters, so you can make that decision for your company and your processes as well. We're going to go through how to actually use it and build with the extension, but first we're going to build a baseline agent within the Copilot Studio canvas so that you can see traditional methods of building agents versus using the extension. Then we'll clone it through VS Code, walk through the YAML, and use Claude Code to generate a whole topic from scratch. By the end of this, you'll have a new way of working, so let's get straight into it. So the first thing I'd like to do is explain what it is in the first place. So what you're seeing on my screen here is the process that you'd follow if you were to use this extension. You'd effectively start in the cloud, so you'd build your baseline agent to begin with. Then using the extension, you'll turn that agent into files on your local machine. And then you have access to those files to edit through VS Code, which then you have access to things like AI native tools and Git integration. A typical workflow would look like this. Again, you'd start in the portal within Copilot Studio and you'd build your baseline agent. Then you'd use the extension to clone your agent onto your local machine, which will then generate you YAML files. You'll then have access to those files within VS Code, and then you can edit and apply any changes that you'd like using any VS Code tools that you'd usually use on a traditional pro dev environment. And then finally, you send those changes back to the portal using the extension. The idea is simple. Instead of clicking through and tinkering with a visual canvas, you are editing files directly within your IDE. I do also really want to quickly discuss why it matters, because I think it's important to kind of frame the reason I'm making this video and how I think it could impact development teams building with Copilot Studio. So the first one, and one of my favorites, is AI assisted authoring. So because we're pulling those files into VS Code, we then have access to all of our VS Code extensions, Claude Code and GitHub Copilot being some examples. Now, of course, you can make the argument that Copilot is available through the Copilot Studio canvas, but right now, the truth is it doesn't work the best, and doing it this way is a bit more reliable from my experimentation. And my favorite point about this is you have access to the latest and greatest tools. So those of you who don't like GitHub Copilot can use Claude Code to actually edit and modify your code. Then of course, we've got team collaboration at scale. So a few different points go into this, but using the native canvas of Copilot Studio, changes can get lost if two people are working on the same agent at the same time. If we're working on the IDE, however, we have proper branching so people aren't stepping on each other's toes when they're developing in the same agent. And then finally, we have version control with Git. So we can track every change and we can roll back when things break, which again is somewhat supported within the traditional Power Platform and Copilot Studio interfaces, but is obviously much more established and works much better on the local terminals. My favorite one on here is the AI piece. Having access to the latest and greatest tools, in my opinion, is one of the biggest benefits of this. In the following sections of the video, I'm going to show you how we can build and generate topics using Claude Code. So it's going to understand our YAML files and generate a topic for us completely hands-free, and then we're going to deploy that back to Copilot Studio. Okay, so back to the workflow. As I mentioned, the very first step is to build our baseline agent within the portal. So I'm going to show you how it looks like to start from scratch, building an agent. I'm going to add a topic to that agent, and then we're going to move on to the next step. So let's go to the portal. Okay, so now I'm in my Copilot Studio portal. The first thing I'm going to do is build my agent from scratch. So I'm going to come into agents here on the left-hand side. Then I'm going to come into create blank agent. And then once we're here, we're going to give our agent a name and a description. Okay, so the agent has been provisioned, so we can come into edit. And I just have some predefined fields that I'm going to add here. So this is going to be an IT support agent. The description is going to be a simple IT support agent for internal employees to get quick answers on common IT issues, and then we're going to select save. We'll select our agent's model and we'll change it to reasoning for now, just so you can see it changing within the IDE as well. And then for the instructions, we're going to come into edit, and I have a system prompt that I've pre-written here saying that you're an IT support assistant for internal employees. You help people solve common IT issues quickly and clearly. So we just have a simple prompt for the system to know actually what it is. We're going to save. And then the first thing we're going to do is create a topic. So we're going to come into topics. We've got some custom and system ones that are pre-built for us, but we're just going to add a topic. And we're going to do it from blank. Now from here, we're going to describe what the topic does. And again, I have something pre-written. I'm just going to copy and paste this in here. And this topic is going to be for people who've forgotten their password. So we're going to give this topic the name, passwords reset requests. Now we're going to set the conversation flow. So after the trigger has occurred, we're going to come into add node and send a message. So this is going to be what our agent says once it's detected that this person has forgotten their password. It's going to tell us no problem. So we're going to click out of that, and then we're going to add another message. And then we're going to say, go to this link and sign in with your work email, follow the prompts, and you should be back within 2 minutes. And then we're going to add another node, come into ask a question, and the question is going to be, did this resolve your issue? We're going to set this from multiple choice into Boolean, and then at this point we're going to have a condition for both areas. So if the variable is equal to true, so it has resolved that issue, we are going to add a message as just a closer, asking another question, and for all other conditions which aren't yes or aren't true, we're going to add a node to send a message, which says, sorry about that, please raise a ticket at this website and an IT engineer will pick it up. So we've got our very simple topic in our very simple flow created. And if I save this, and let's just have a test of that to make sure it's working. We're going to come back, come into test, and then we're just going to say, hello, I've forgotten my password. And let's see if it takes us through that flow. And then we can say immediately, it's gone through this topic, it's given us the messages, and it's saying, did that resolve your issue? And then if we say yes, it should give us our closing statement. And amazing, it says, great, is there anything else I can help you with? So this flow is working really well. Now, what I'm going to do is, I know I've already made a mistake by going with the reasoning agent, so I'm just going to go to chat, which is going to work fine for us because testing this is going to be an absolute nightmare with that. But what you want to take from this is the normal experience, and you saw the amount of clicks it took to build out that topic, and whilst it wasn't painful by any means, it just wasn't that quick. So if you can imagine building 10 topics or 20 topics for your agent, it can be a little bit more difficult to do it this way. So now the topic is built, let me show you another way. So now we're in VS Code, and you can see I've opened up my extension tab, which is here on the left hand side, and I've looked for Copilot Studio. What I want you to do is to install this plugin. So I've already got it installed. Install the plugin and set auto update to yes. Once you've installed this plugin, you should see it pop up here on the left hand side, and we'll just click on this. And what we're going to do is clone the agent. So we're going to click on this. It's going to ask us to select the environment. So we built it in YouTube development. It's going to ask us to pick the agent. So we're going to go for the IT support assistant. And now you can see it's automatically opened the file explorer because it wants us to choose somewhere to save the agent to. Because if you think about what that cloning is, it's taking that agent from the cloud and pulling it into your local machine. So we need somewhere for that to actually go. So I'm just going to select this folder, which is IT Help Desk Agent version 2. And now you can see the folder has opened up for us with the different YAML files showing us exactly how the agent is structured. Now you can see immediately we've got our overview files. So here you can see the display name of the agent, the instructions, the GPT capabilities, and the AI settings. So that model that we configured is also configured through here. We're effectively getting that experience that we had in the cloud on our IDE. If I come into topics here, you'll see all of the pre-built topics, including the password reset request topic that we created. And then through here, you can see the flow of the way that we built the topic. So we can see send activity to send the message. We've got the ID of what that is. And then we've got the actual contents of that activity too. And you can see this defines the different types, and then this defines the content. So what I want to do now is make a very small change in the file and then push it back into the cloud so you can see how that integration works. So what are we going to change? Let's change this link over here. So rather than aka.ms, we're just going to make it powercademy.com and sign in with your work email, right? So if we save this locally, you can see it's gone yellow because we have a modification on here. And now if I open up the Copilot Studio extension, you can see the local changes are added here. And what I can do is select this, apply changes. And what that will do is send those changes into the cloud. You can see it's successfully completed applying the changes. And if I open up Copilot Studio here and test the agent, I'm just going to give it a refresh to make sure it's working. And now we've refreshed, we can test the agent. So if I say I need to reset my password and send, what we should see is it will give us the link to powercademy.com instead. So that change has worked directly. Now here's where it gets interesting. What if you didn't write this yourself and instead describe the topic that you want and let AI take the reins from there? Now I want to be transparent with this. You 100% can just come into here and edit this topic with Copilot. But again, the difference is you can use the latest and greatest models specifically from Anthropic using the IDE. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. And what I'm going to do is, since I already have the Claude Code extension installed within Visual Studio Code, I can come into Claude Code here and I have full access to the chat interface. So now I'm in the File Explorer and I have a predefined prompt that I'm going to paste in here. and we're just going to read through it so you know what it's doing. So you are a Copilot Studio topic expert. I need you to generate a valid Copilot Studio topic YAML file that I can drop directly into my agent's topics folder and have it work without modification. The topic is about VPN connection issues, so we're creating a topic using Claude Code about VPN connection issues. The requirements will be to follow Copilot Studio YAML schema exactly, include at least 5 realistic trigger phrases, build a 4-node conversation flow, and it's given that node example here, use realistic friendly message copy, and output only the YAML file, no explanation or markdown fences. It's given the file name as well, so if I enter this, it should just go off and create this for us. And now you can go off, have a coffee, have a tea, and just watch this work its magic. You can see it's asking us for permission to allow us to write to this folder, and we're going to select yes. You can see it's reasoning through issues in the file as well. And then you can see immediately it's finished the file for us, and we can go in, have a review of the file, take a look, make sure everything looks good, and then we can go in and make changes as we want. And I really like this view because we can kind of understand exactly what's going on. The changes that we can make through the content that it's providing here as well is really easy to do. But again, what's even better is now this is done, I can come into my extension, I can apply changes. Now you can also see I can get changes. So if any changes were made in the cloud, I can pull them here as well. But we're just going to apply for now. It's going to check for remote changes, and it's successfully completed applying the changes. So I'm going to go back into my Copilot Studio portal, go backward, give it a refresh, and then we should see the new topic appearing here. And now that's refreshed, I can see the VPN connection issues topic here. And if I click onto this, I can manage it like I would a normal topic. So let's give it a test. So I'm going to go into Visual Studio Code, take one of the trigger queries, copy, come into here and paste, and we're going to see how that runs for us. And then you can see immediately that it's going through the flow that is designed for us here. So you can see that connection working really well. So the final question, of course, is low code dying? Because what we saw just there is we took a low code interface and we transitioned that into our IDE, and then we had full access to the YAML files and could make changes through an AI native editor. So I think with AI native tools making coding a lot more democratized, the question has to be asked, is low code dead or is it dying? I don't think it is. I genuinely think right now it's growing up, and as developers, as consultants, we just have more access to these tools and more capability than we ever did before. What I would say is this: the portal is very good at visualizing what is going on for people who aren't traditional developers or don't have the capability to understand what is going on in the IDE. They might not want to learn, they might not have the time to learn, and Copilot Studio really just gives you a nice oversight of everything that's going on. But again, the truth of the matter, coding is becoming more and more democratized than it was 5 years ago, and we've made huge jumps in the way that these AI tools can help us develop and code. You saw in our case, it read through the existing YAML files and generated a structure based off of that. So my key takeaway here is when it comes to a point where you need a little bit more, where you need version control, where you might want to edit in your IDE with tools like Claude Code, this extension is brilliant for doing that. Again, I really don't think low code is dying. I think it's just growing up in the way that we use these tools, and we have more flexibility in what's available to us. Now, if you're watching this and thinking my team need to be working like this, that's exactly what we do at Powercademy. Hands-on workshops in your environment, building tools like this which are real. If it sounds like something you need, there's a link in the top of the description where you can click and find out more, and we can have a conversation to see if we're a fit. If this was useful, you know what to do. Of course, drop a comment. Let me know if you've used this extension, if you like it, if you think it's useful. I genuinely read them all, so I'd love to go through them and hear your thoughts on this, and if you think it's going to change the way that you develop in the future. Anyway, that's it for me. I will see you in the next one, and yeah, take it easy.